What have you, because what have you found about how music affects people? It's very broad, I know, but what have you found that being able to see that connection? And you mentioned
Yeah,
this day and age with social media as well, the immediacy between you yourself and who you're playing for.
yeah, absolutely. It's a big question, that one. Really, so there are lots of different levels to the way in which music can reach people. I mean, firstly, yeah, it's about communication, right? I think that both technology and music are both about communication and connection. So you can connect people. You can see that people feel more connected when they share a musical experience, whether that's being in a room listening to it or whether it's just sharing it between each other on social media or whatever it happens to be. But I think that sometimes, yeah, music can teach you things about yourself, about the way that you feel things, and by observing yourself whilst listening to lots of different kinds of music, I think you can learn what resonates with you more and what doesn't resonate with you as much. So some certain kinds of music can really make you excited in a very invincible way, like, and then some piece of music can make you excited but in a underneath way, like, and then certain things make you cry and certain things make you smile, and learning about what makes you smile is a really valid thing to do in your life. So yeah, for me, looking at music and listening to the moments that make me smile and then thinking about why, I think that's taught me a lot about myself, like more than even something like reading books or something, because it's a very immediate way of doing it, and as a musician, I seek to try and replicate those moments, or at least kind of study them, just to kind of see how I can affect people in that way. But I mean, everyone's different.
Sure.
Everyone has a different framework of understanding, and I think it's very important as a musician to think very gesturally about things and not think very exactly, like this always makes you feel this, or this is, because it's about context and it's about sound, and even just with one chord, you can say so many different things with that one chord, depending on where it is in the piece, or something. So it's nice to just be aware of the fact that people are looking at this. Everyone has a separate universe of their own, and so the more you can reach in and just leave things there for people to come and find, that's a better way of doing it than sort of pushing emotions in people's faces. It's more about saying, well, I can only make music for myself, so I'm going to put these emotions out there, and then people maybe can come to the emotions or come to the music and find their own stories to tell, and that's a really important thing to aim for.
And in that sense, then, for you, because I was going to ask, well, what did you discover about yourself? And you mentioned jazz music, but can I assume then that for you, music is just music, and those kind of dividing boundaries are not very relevant?
Do you mean in terms of like a genre,
Yeah.
like jazz and classical?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's another reason why it's very exciting to be a creative person in 2017, because people don't think about boundaries nearly as much as they used to, because record companies don't rule the roost. So it's not about I'm an R&B singer, and so I'm booked for R&B gigs, and my album sells on the R&B charts. It's more about, like, I'm a musician and I make music that's all sorts of different things, and maybe you can find something of value to you in this music. Yeah.
And I want to talk about the live shows a little bit more, because I saw a little clip, I think it was on Instagram, where you played all kinds of stuff in maybe 2 minutes. You kind of started playing a song.
Yeah.
So where does this energy come from? Because you're doing so much.
Yeah. It's an interesting question. I don't know where my energy comes from, really, but I think that the energy that I give out to a room of people is often, like, equal to the energy that I get back from them. So there's a lovely sustainability about touring, which is like, you come to a group of people, you play for them, and you give energy out, and then they give all this energy back. So that's cool. But I love it. I love music. I love performing it. I love listening to it. I love talking about it. I love thinking about it. And so it doesn't feel like work. It feels like fun. And for lots of people, I think that sometimes a job can be something that you sigh about. And then you have your job, and then you have the thing that you love. But I'm just so exceptionally lucky to be one of those people who do something that they absolutely adore for a living. But yeah, it doesn't feel like it's something I'm doing for money. It feels like something I'm doing for the love of it. So energy comes automatically, I think, in that situation, because if no one was listening to the music, then I'd still be playing it. Right. So it's just nice that people are there listening to it.
But part of it obviously has to be dedication, hard work, and I mean, that's part of it, right?
Yeah, I think that's a given for me. I've never felt like I've sat down and had to work. I've never, as a child, I didn't practice, really. I wasn't encouraged to practice. I wasn't told to practice. It was never like, Jacob, go and do your practice, otherwise you can't get a cookie or something. It was just like, you know, I was introduced to the wealth of delights of music, and you know, we often had discussions about it, like, you know, why is this wonderful, or why is this magnificent, or something. And then when I began to create things, I found myself creating things, but before I thought about whether I should create them or not. So it's just like, oh, here I am making music, and I really like it. And you know, I didn't really think about trying to make a career out of it until I was about 18 or 19, and someone said like, oh, you know, this video's just got like 1 million views or something. It's like, oh wow, that's crazy, and maybe I could just keep going, and I think that's what I'm doing. I think the moment I sit down and think, well, okay, now it's serious. Now, Jacob, you got to make some money, and you got to make sure people know about this music. You got to get it out there, get the word out, and for me, the magic is gone, and the only reason why it has value for me is that I'm just making it almost like a child. You know, I'm just I'm trying stuff out and making these little games and concentrating on little details and trying to tell as authentic stories as I can.
With that in mind, then, because like say around 18, 19, the ball starts rolling. So
Right.
But then I see now pictures on your Facebook where you're with Herbie, you're with David Crosby, you're Stevie Wonder, who we talked about last time. Yeah. And what is that like? Because is it well, I can imagine, but is it kind of fulfilling a dream and?
Oh yeah, it really is. I mean, to connect with people like Stevie is just, you know, unbelievable. But I think what I've learned is that I think experiences in one's life that they aren't more valuable if you're with a person who's famous or not famous. They're very much equal experiences, and for me, I definitely try and feel like it's like that. So, you know, for somebody like Herbie, you know, I've been spending lots of time with Herbie because I'm recording for his next album. So at first it was like, wow, this is Herbie, man, you know, he's my hero. And I think after a while you learn that Herbie's just another human being. And so it's a bit easier to relate to him in those terms, rather than thinking, well, the mighty Mr. Hancock, and then it's just me, little Jacob, in the corner. It's more interesting for Herbie actually as well, and me, just to think, well, we're just two people in a room making some music and talking about some life, and I think Herbie, I've spoken to him about this, and he always treats every interaction as a brand new interaction. You know, it's like, you are, you know, now I'm speaking to you, and that's as valuable and valid as anyone I'd ever speak to, because we're both humans, you know. And so people like Herbie and you know, Quincy and Stevie and things like this, that these people have amazing stories to tell. But as far as their energy is concerned, I focus a lot on how the energy feels, and you know, you can have good energy with anyone, and you can have bad energy with anyone. It's just about how you choose to, you know, the choices you make in those situations and stuff. But no, of course, I mean, Herbie and Stevie are, you know, amongst my two greatest heroes. To have spent a little bit of time with each of them has been very precious.
And like, can I assume then that creatively, can you just say, well, I suppose you can, but can you just say to Herbie, well, I don't really like this, I don't think this is the right direction, or do you have to build up to something?
No, with Herbie you can always be straight.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess certain people, because they're you know, more protective, you have to be a bit careful about how you say it. But with Herbie, me and Herbie, when we're jamming, it feels like we're equal in a certain way. Now, obviously not in terms of experience, but in terms of humans.
Sure.
You know, we're both making the music, and we both have ideas, and so everyone's idea is the same amount of valid. But you know, it's his album, so I definitely listen to how he feels about it and where he wants to go. But you know, yeah, we each make suggestions and then tread on each other's suggestions. I mean, that's the joy of collaborating. That's
part of
that's the joy of being human. You know, it's nice to disagree with people sometimes.
Finally, then, because I want to mention your album In My Room. I think the last year there hasn't been as much time you've spent in your room as before, because of everything that's happening.
Yeah, definitely.
So how has that affected your creativity and how you?
Yeah, interesting. Well, I've been very much more inspired by live performance, having never really done live performances before last summer. Very much, it's been a real step forward. I've done. I think I've done 100 shows since I last saw you a year ago, and you know, you constantly learn about that. You constantly learn about what works and what doesn't work, and what feeds you and what is energetically sustainable, and what's musically interesting. So I've learned a lot from performing music and listening to music and meeting all sorts of people and hearing what they have to say, you know, about what really moves them the most and stuff. So I think it's been a process of gathering. I've gathered a lot of ideas And I think I'm at the point now where I'm nearly ready to go back in and just make another album, which is something I've made a lot of it already in the back of my head, and it just hasn't happened yet because I haven't had time. But yeah, it's obviously in your life you always go through different processes. Sometimes you gather, and sometimes you give out. And you know, when I made In My Room, it was a lot about giving out, and it's like I'd gathered for lots of time, and it was like, what do I want to say now? And then I've been gathering from being on tour, all these different stories and things to say, and people I've met, and things that I've been learning and about, you know, what's worth communicating and what I find valuable and things. So yeah, now back to the room soon, and more music to come.
Finally, then, is there one thing you can share that you have to say now, or something that you've noticed that, okay, this is something I'd like to talk about?
Yeah, well, do you mean just to all people in general?
Well, with your music.
With the music. Oh, I see. Well, I think, I mean, creatively speaking, I think I'd like to make an album which is a bit less like everything is in one place and a bit more spread out. So I'm plotting this. I think it'll be quite long, probably a bit longer than In My Room, maybe twice as long. And it will have a path through all these different worlds that I want to be inhabiting. But I think the idea is that instead of trying to fit 4 different worlds in one song, it will be like you can have a song for each world. So take a bit more time and allow the things to breathe a bit more and push myself. But I guess one important thing is that I want to be working with other musicians. So that's like a major step forward for me in terms of collaboration and stuff. But I'm very excited to make that record.
Very quickly, one name in mind already?
One name in mind? Let me think. So one actually is the Metropole Orchestra, with whom I'm playing on Sunday. I'm playing here at North Sea Jazz, and playing with Corey Henry. And yeah, so the Metropole, I think, have agreed to do a few songs, and I'm going to be thinking about how to use that as a palette, the strings and the brass, and those colours. Obviously, I don't play strings or brass very much, so it's nice to think about that on a grander scale. How to get what my imagination is out into the world.
Well, can't wait to hear.
Great, thanks very much.
All right,
Cheers.
Always a pleasure.
Thank
you very much.
Yeah, see you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.